All right, now to an issue that has shaken the Asian community in the United Kingdom. Thousands of girls have fallen prey to what's being called grooming gangs. Sex traffickers and abusers, predominantly British Pakistanis who target Sikh girls. WION's London Bureau Chief Mandy Clark investigates.
Inside Britain's tight-knit Sikh communities, there are hundreds of victims of sexual abuse.
Literally hundreds. You get cases which are, we call them green, amber, and sort of red. Reds are the real sort of nasty cases.
Red cases like Hernaz. Her name has been changed and her voice has been modified to protect her identity. When Hernaz first met her abuser, he seemed kind.
Met on Diwali. It was in a public place. We bumped into each other. I fell and he gave me his hand to help me up.
Hernaz was only 16 when the man began the process of grooming her. They exchanged phone numbers and talked for days before their first meeting in a park.
Never had that interaction with a male, where the male wanted to listen to what I had to say about the stuff that was happening in my life at that time.
Hernaz felt special. This form of abuse starts off slow. The groomer will pretend to be a caring friend, buying gifts and listening to her stories, all in an effort to gain her trust before turning on her.
Well, it happened on the second time that we met. I never thought twice about it. When I got in the car, I never thought that he would lie to me about where we were going, but also who would be there. I was taken to a B&B.
The men plied her with drugs and alcohol and raped her. It was just the starting of her abuse. Hernaz was only willing to tell her story to Mohan Singh, a face she trusts. He's been trying to help victims of grooming in his community for over a decade. The plight of girls like Hernaz is the reason behind Singh's mission to visit every single one of Britain's 300 gurdwaras. Today he's visiting the biggest one in London.
Now, sexual grooming.
He helped set up the Sikh Awareness Society back in the 1990s after growing concern within his community that young children were being sexually abused. But his advocacy has spread to other South Asian communities.
It's a problem throughout all communities. Since the last couple of years, we have been working within mandirs, within Buddhist temples, Jain temples, and churches.
It doesn't just affect the Sikh community. Dipin Rajaguru is a director with the Hindu Council UK.
We are aware of Hindu girls also being targeted by these grooming gangs.
Many South Asian communities are honor-based with deeply held traditional religious views. For many, virginity before marriage is held sacred, and it can make it very difficult for the abused girls and their families.
In fact, that's the part of the grooming process. You pick on the most vulnerable people. You know about their culture. You know that it will be taboo in their culture, and they use it against them.
Singh's lectures are uncomfortable listening for most Sikhs. The sexual grooming of girls can be a taboo subject in this community. One of his biggest battles is persuading families to reach out for help. Hernaz believes she was targeted because she was Sikh.
I think they realised that if I spoke up about anything, I would be the one to be at blame because I'd lost my virginity.
Over a dozen Sikh parents have gone as far as to send their children abroad to get them out of harm's way.
There's a lot of young people that we've moved to other countries because literally they wouldn't be able to make it in this country because they'll always be looking over their shoulder.
It may sound extreme, but many Sikh parents believe they had to move their children because they were in danger here in the UK from Muslim groomers. It's a deeply controversial accusation, but the two faith groups have a history of religious conflict.
I can only speak on the evidence that we've collected since '97. We're dealing with gangs of people, we're dealing with groups of people who belong to one ethnic group, who belong to one sort of faith.
Through the data, statistics, and what's happening within the criminal justice system, we know that the majority of the perpetrators that are caught were Pakistani men. So it's something which the Pakistani community really needs to take hold of to ensure if this is being engendered within their community, it's going to create not just problems externally, but for us, what about your own women folk? You know, if you're able to pick on other vulnerable women, how much do you respect your own?
If a Sikh man does something wrong, label it a Sikh man. If a Muslim is doing something wrong, label it. At least we'll know at the end of the day where the problem is by calling a spade a spade.
Muhammad Shafiq is a Muslim advocate and finds these accusations harmful.
And I think what's really unhelpful is for the Sikh community to make this into a Muslim versus Sikh issue, you know, a religious issue. There's no religious connotation to this whatsoever. Muslims reject the rape and abuse of children. It's punishable in Islam and it's condemned. And I think that's where we've got to focus our energy, working together in partnership, collectively, to tackle this problem. Because, you know, if the Sikhs go off and do their own thing, the Muslims do their own thing, the Hindus do their own thing, I don't think we'll be able to eradicate this.
He says the problem lies not in the religion, but in the Pakistani culture.
It's a cultural issue. It's cultural baggage from the Indian subcontinent. You know, yes, Pakistan, India are two different countries. Yes, there are different religions, Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam. But actually, some of the cultural practices are endemic within all those communities. So, for example, forced marriages, honour killings. Actually, you get that in the Hindu community and the Sikh community. It's not just a Muslim problem. I think there is an overrepresentation because that's what the facts suggest. And the real thing here that we've got to focus on is what can we do to stop it? And I think there has got to be a self-reflection on the Pakistani community. Why is it that more and more of our men are involved in these crimes? Well, I think one of the reasons is obviously, I think, because there's a form of racism involved. They think that white girls are worthless. Oh, they might think that Sikh girls are worthless or Hindu girls are worthless, and therefore, you know, they're at liberty to do what they want.
For Hernaz, the blackmail and abuse would continue for months. She says the men forced her into prostitution. It was only when she heard Singh's lecture at a gurdwara that she felt that she could talk to someone.
I find it more comfortable talking to you than I did with the police because I knew you would understand the cultural aspect of the difficulty of coming forward about this and how I would find it difficult to be able to speak about things like this. You helped me understand that what was happening wasn't my fault, that what they were doing was they were taking advantage of me.
After hearing her story, Singh was determined to prove that she was being abused. He launched his own private investigation over several weeks. He revisited all the locations where the abuse occurred and tracked down witnesses. Ultimately, he provided the police with key evidence that led to an investigation and helped convict the abusers. It was the first ever case involving a Sikh victim of sexual grooming to have been successfully taken to court. The perpetrators were sentenced but have now been released.
I receive numerous phone calls from private numbers. Sometimes there is a voice, they laugh, they mock me, they say, "Don't you remember who I am?" So I get these phone calls. All you can really do is to change your number and go to the police.
Singh remains in close contact with Hernaz, guiding her through the healing process. She's in therapy now and dealing with the traumas of her past.
These are self-harm scars. I have them on my stomach and on my legs and on both of my arms. The last time I self-harmed was 6 months ago. It's the longest I've ever gone without self-harming in my life.
For Singh, freeing a victim from the clutches of her abusers is his greatest achievement.
The joy, inner peace that comes when you can bring peace into somebody's life. I don't have to wait to die to see heaven. I see it then.
He sees this work as his life mission, to stop the gangs abusing any more girls. Mandy Clark, WION, London.